Okay everybody, great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch back again for another delightful video. What am I talking about today? I'm going to talk about ghosts. Why? Because the subject is fun and people like to hear about them and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so what are ghosts? Well, no one knows. The opinion is that after death your soul can carry on and continue some form of life. Or alternatively, that there is some variety of recorded in time, like the place somehow contains the energy of a tragic emotional moment that happened, and then hey presto, the energy of it is somehow imprinted in the walls and in the ground and in stones, and that's why you end up seeing the same thing at a particular significant time of the year. These are hypotheses as to why ghost experiences have happened. But the first question is do they exist or not? Obviously, we've got questions about that. I'm erring much more on the side of yes as opposed to no. And I'm giving you that point of view on the basis of experience rather than just listening to some stories which someone else had told about something that they said happened on one particular night and that was the reason that they ended up with whatever. So I'm saying yes on the basis of there were various different types of experiences in the past. The first one, of course, I had about the age of 4. I had others in my teenage years. I've had others after that. And it seems as though... I mean, some people say they've seen a ghost, right? But have they seen them with a physical eye? Possibly not. It's like the person at that time is extra open or extra sensitive at that time. So therefore doing things to make yourself extra sensitive. I mean, sometimes the sensitivity can happen spontaneously. Like in the case of a bad fever or a couple of nights of insomnia or something else which is somehow rattled you out of your system somehow. But you don't want to initiate that in order to try and see a ghost, because essentially that means physical unwellness and mental unwellness at the same time. So the only real way of doing it is to carry on practicing opening up. And that happens... That's interesting because the sense of perception when you're in a form of meditation, like when I'm using the Ouija board, right? I get impressions of people there. Things will pop into the visual imagination briefly, but it's the visual imagination. It's not like seeing something face to face. However, I've done astral projections, and I have seen, 2 people standing there, just like regular human beings, rather elderly. So maybe they were guide spirits of people who'd passed on and they're part of my ancestry. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is the experience happened and they were there. And I saw it. Okay? Problems with ghosts is that it's harder to put things to the test. You're not necessarily dealing with something which obeys the physical laws. You're not necessarily dealing with someone which obeys, or something which obeys the laws of regular human communication. And therefore, we would have to conceptualize of these things as being somehow different to us, but also somehow similar to us as well. And that's when it gets even more confusing. Are they shades of the dead? Namely, no real consciousness is just there. It's just like a shadow moving around. That's kind of like the whole sort of landscape recording type theory, I suppose. That would be more of a shade. But an actual conscious person standing there who you're engaging with in some variety of communication, that gets weird. And then I'm trying to be as clear-minded and skeptical and reasonable and rational about this whole subject as I can, but there's a certain point when I guess it must be a bit like, these quantum physicists who look at things really, 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 really small, and then the natural laws of nature sort of stop existing anymore. Maybe there's a certain level of exploration whereby you need to move out of rational logical thinking and start to accept the fact that there is natural animistic universe there, and there are some varieties of conscious entities of people who've passed on, or indeed conscious entities which represent various different things in nature or in human experience. And these things kind of develop a certain level of consciousness of their own. And that's something which you seem to be able to interact with. Sometimes, under some weird circumstances. What those circumstances are, it's it's just a question of practicing and working out what specific opening ups is doing what, and so on and so forth, and that's relevant to you as a person, that's not relevant to me. But doing those exercises I've mentioned, the chakra visualizations, the ascension meditation, and the body scan, appear to be 3 of the ways in which you can build up something. Mainly with the chakra opening, you're focusing on the throat, third eye, and crown, because essentially that's where hearing, sight, and something else kind of like all connects together, and those are your chakras of sensation. Trying to do more with what was written of in that wonderful book, which I carry on telling everyone about, and if you haven't got a copy of it yet, you bloody well should do, which is The Projection of the Astral Body by Sylvan Muldoon and Hereward Carrington. I mean, seriously. Out of all of the books you could ever buy, that one I'm commanding you to buy and read and study and live by, until such time as you've had your first full-blown astral projection, which will take a few years. But it's kind of really worth it, because of the questions you need to ask yourself, and the questions you need to ask of reality and nature. And then there's a whole debate about why are we actually in the human form. What is it about this form that nature and evolution and the rest of it had to create in order for us to become these beings who could eventually become ghosts? Or maybe there's a different career after you're dead and you can choose a path, you become an angel or something, I don't know. Or maybe it's just a question of the preservation of the consciousness in a humanoid form prior to reincarnation. Again, I don't know. Or maybe the real life is what we've experienced after we've lived a good life. There's so many different questions and inquiries, and it's complicated. It does stretch my mind a lot to try and work out what's really real in this. But these things appear to be real. Okay, they appear to be, as far as I can tell, real. The ghost exists. Okay. Again, what you can do with that information, the Lord alone knows. Alright, but focus on the preparatory exercises I've mentioned already and see whether they can help you to eventually get a weird experience. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Keep cool.